Sir, I am not able to share my screen, I think.
Now you can share.
Yes, sir. Am I visible, audible, sir?
Yes.
Very good afternoon to all of you. I welcome you all on behalf of Institution of Urban Transport India at the chapter event from SVNIT Regional Chapter comprising of Gujarat-Rajasthan members. It was established in 2014 at Civil Engineering Department of Sardar Vallabhbhai National Institute of Technology, Surat. The main office of this institute is based at New Delhi in Anand Vihar Metro Station building itself, and it is established under the aegis of Ministry of Urban Development, Government of India. As we can see, the website iutindia.org is comprising all sort of information related to current updates of the Institute of Urban Transport. Basically, it was established back in 1997 as a professional body under the Ministry of Urban Development, and with a focus to become one of the premier non-profit making organization with an objective to promote, encourage, and coordinate the state-of-art urban transport, including activities related to planning, development, operation, education in terms of capacity building, research, as well as to an extent management of urban transportation. Different members, it comprises members of ministry, definitely for that, as well as we have academicians, architects, economists, engineers, transport planners, town planners, and professionals from various discipline, and more than 65 institutional member along with 1400 individual members, with 70 associate members are there in the institute till date. The institute has been providing support to ministry in preparation of national urban transport policy, as well as it is encouraging and involved in professional activities, conducting lectures, seminars, workshops, dissemination of information in terms of reports, training programs. All these sort of activities have been provided with the technical support of Ministry of Urban Development. At SVNIT chapter, we also have performed assignments for Surat Municipal Corporation, wherein public bike sharing was the major of a project that was carried out for the central zone of Surat city, as well as the south corridor, Udna to Sachin. So, apart from that, this chapter has also carried out certain seminars in the past, as well as supported conferences of national, international level. There are basically 5 wings are evolved at the Institute of Urban Transportation, focusing each on research activities, publications, information and library training, and knowledge management come database center. So uh, if anyone happens to be at the Institute of Urban Transportation New Delhi office, there is enriched library with a lot of documents available for getting from the library for referencing. Along these documents are in terms of books as well as soft copy in form of CDs and DVDs. The website has content as what we can see on the screen here. It also has Facebook page, which all can like and keep in touch with the activities that are taking place at the center. There are memberships, like as I said, institutional membership is relevant to the organizations or companies or firms or association of people or society on payment of 60,000, it can be availed, and individual memberships are also available to any professional with a graduation degree with a membership fee of 10,000, and which is one-time payment. But since last few years, under the instructions of Government of India, this membership is put on hold. So no new members are enacted in the role of membership of IUT. Every year there has been a major conference and exhibition on urban mobility has taken place since past 10 years, and the different themes are addressed, and the venues are either of major cities where the transportation is a challenge, and researchers present their research papers along with professional dialogues takes place in these events. There are several committees established which keeps on working around for addressing different aspects and production of documents based on research work carried out. So in all, I would begin the event with the thank note from my side. I am treasurer in serving as the chapter, Bhaskar Bhatt, and I request Dr. Jijay Joshi to highlight the purpose of the day, and will begin further for the day, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Bhaskar, for wonderful beginning and highlighting the scope of Institute of Urban Transport, which is working under the aegis of Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. I, at the outset, welcome all the participants and thank the municipal corporation, particularly Smart City Corporation, for providing the facilities to conduct this online seminar on travel in cities, contemporary issues. As all of us know, travel is integral part of human life. But since last decade or so, there has been a lot of talk about the sustainability of the way our travel patterns are evolving. Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, through its policy called National Urban Transport Policy in 2014, have given emphasis on use of public transport modes and use of non-motorized transport facilities. COVID-19 has interjected several challenges for urban transport planners, and rather you can say at large urban governments. The requirements of social distancing has rather discouraged people to use public transport because it carries an image that it is difficult to maintain social distance and there are dangers of getting affected by infections. In a recent news in Economic Times, it is reported by automobile industry that two-wheeler sales has also picked up at a much higher rate than the corresponding period last year. This shows that people have now shifted maybe from public transport to their individual mobility, and in absence of other credible options like enhanced capacity of public transport, very good facilities for driving their own bicycle or walking down for the nearest locations for participating in any activities. So this is, in our opinion, is the right point of time to review the evolving patterns of travel in cities. The major issues which we are trying to address today is number one, how the travel patterns are changing and how it is impacting the traffic operation quality of our city roads. The seven scenarios will be presented where pre-lockdown and post-lockdown, during lockdown scenarios of travel is simulated. Another important aspect is related to use of non-motorized vehicles. Surat Municipal Corporation has taken up two initiatives. One initiative is to establish public bike sharing systems. Since last 2 years, the exercise has been in place, and public bike sharing system is operational at around 60 PBS stations with 1200 bicycles. Still, the use of PBS is not as expected. So we are trying to make a presentation here by Dr. Samit Patel that what are the challenges in implementation of public bike sharing system. Another recent initiative is to make the cities friendly for bicyclists. How to enhance the infrastructure for cyclists or the people who wish to drive cycles. So in that connection, Cycle for Change is one initiative floated by Ministry of Housing and Urban Development under Smart City Mission. Surat is, as being the fourth fastest growing city, has also been part of this challenge, and citizens' participation has been invited to give the ideas how they can contribute to make the cities friendly for cyclists. All these initiatives will definitely help to make the city transport system sustainable. Number one, we'll be able to reduce the use of motorized personal vehicles, thereby reducing the use of fossil fuels and the environmental damages. Secondly, we will also be able to make our transport system in cities socially equitable. That means we will be giving equal right in terms of quality space for pedestrians and bicyclists. And the third one, it will also help the economy of the cities. Recently, one study has brought out that if sizable number of two-wheeler and four-wheeler users shift to bicycles, then it will save GDP by 1.6%. That means it has impact on the economy also. So shifting towards non-motorized modes of transport like bicycles as well as walk will definitely help the cities to survive these challenges. In that connection, I would like to draw your attention towards the strategy which ministry has floated in its policy ASNI, avoid, shift and improve. So avoid means you should avoid use of motorized transport, particularly personal modes of mobility. Second is the shift from modes of personal mobility to green modes like bicycles and walk. And I means improve our infrastructure so that bicyclists and pedestrians may feel more safe and comfortable completing their travel in our cities. So this is the major motivation for this seminar for the day. So we will have three presentations. First presentation will be by a research scholar from SVNIT on effect of urban area activity reorganization strategies on travel demand in a city. Second presentation will be by Dr. Samir J. Patel. He was also our doctoral scholar, and he will be presenting on framework for implementation of public bike sharing system in Indian cities. And our third presentation of the day will be by Dr. Rajesh Pandya on India Cycle for Change Challenge. Each presenter will make presentation for 20 minutes uninterruptedly, and at the end of all the three presentations, we'll have 15 minutes of interaction on any of these presentation. In the meantime, participants can also post their queries into the chat box. So with these few words of introduction of today's webinar, I invite the first presenter, Mr. Nandan Davda, to make his presentation.
A very good afternoon to one and all present here. Myself, Nandan Davda, research scholar of Sardar Vallabhbhai National Institute of Technology, is here to deliver my presentation on modeling effect of urban area activity reorganization strategies on the travel demand of city. Now, before going into the presentation, first of all, let us understand the motivation behind the present research. The transportation planning in India has occurred in a disorganized and scattered manner. The urban transport infrastructure of most of the cities has evolved towards the development of the infrastructure for the mobility of two-wheelers and four-wheelers, complemented with the absence of organized public transport and lack of infrastructures like footpath and cycleways. Now, such a high dependency of people on private mode of transport for more than a decade has resulted into rise of transport externality like damage to the road and environment, accident, congestion, lack of parking spaces, and many more. To cater this problem, based on the National Urban Transport Policy 2014, ample number of policies and strategies like transit-oriented development, employment decentralization, increasing vehicle occupancy by ride-sharing scheme, concepts like work from home, tele-shopping, tele-education, variable working hours, etc. has been introduced by the local government into the cities for the last decade. In spite of such measures, but still, the propensity of people to change their travel behavior was a big question. And meanwhile, the year 2020 arrived with the COVID-19 pandemic. To reduce the probability of the spread of coronavirus, the entire nation was locked down for 70 days, that is from 25th March to 31st May 2020. Now, during this period, the demand for travel was almost reduced to zero, and consequently, the city residents started accepting the concepts like WFH, that is, work from home. The education sector in India has seen a big paradigm shift as the online classes and exams were conducted for the school going and college going students. Hence, we can interpret it as that lockdown due to COVID-19 pandemic forcibly habituated the people to the new way of getting educated and working from home. With this motivation and considering COVID-19 as a blessing in disguise, the present research attempts to analyze the effect of various activity reorganization strategies on travel demand of cities. The strategies were designed by varying the operational capacity of the workplaces and schools, and based on that, 8 scenarios were generated, which will be explained in further slides. Next. So these are the flow of my content, beginning with the basics of travel demand modeling, followed by how the base year travel demand model was developed for Surat city, then various scenarios which are generated using Cube software are explained, and finally policy interventions, conclusions and limitations. Next. Beginning with the travel demand model. TDM can be understood as a process of representing the complex trip-making behavior of people in a simplified terms, that is the transit, ridership and traffic link flows. As we all know, it consists of 4 basic steps, beginning with trip generation, which estimates the total originating and terminating trips into the zones, that is productions and attractions. Second is trip distribution, where the total productions and attractions of the zones are being balanced and the production attraction matrix is obtained. Third is mode choice, where the analysis and prediction of the mode chosen by an individual based on the type of the trip has been made and the mode-wise OD matrix is estimated. And finally, trip assignment, where the traffic is assigned to the road and public transport network and the traffic flows and transit ridership is obtained. Cube Voyager is one of the best platform available in market to develop travel demand model, and the present analysis was carried out using Cube software. Next. The present research was done for the Surat city, which is located in the western part of India in the Gujarat state. The city is divided into 7 major administrative zones and has the build-up area of 234 kilometers square. In all, there are 128 bridges and flyovers into the city for providing the mobility, and the major 8 bridges connect the western part of city to the remaining city. Now going towards the development of travel demand modeling in the Surat city. Now before coding the travel demand model, the 4 basic steps needs to be done. The first is the division of the entire city into the smaller segments, that is development of traffic analysis zone. Second is digitalization of existing transport road network. Third is coding of the public transport network. And finally, the calibration of the parameters used for the travel demand model. Now beginning with the first, that is development of TSI. Based on the criteria of the population density, the entire city was divided into 37 TSZ. Here we could clearly see that the north and the southeast part of the city had the higher population growth, and the central part of the city is now witnessing the negative growth rate, population growth. These are the key indicators of the city. Presently, the population of city is 5.5 million and the area is 326 kilometers as per the census 2011. The average population density is 301 person per hectare. The work participation ratio of city is 40%, resulting into 2.2 millions of workers. The Surat is the diamond capital of the world and textile capital of the India. Hence, it generates an employment of 2.5 million. The presence of 758 schools and 48 colleges results into the student enrollment of 1.2 million. If we look to the statistics of two-wheeler and four-wheeler per thousand population, then it is 376 and 67, indicating the dependency of the city dwellers on the private mode of transport. Next. The road network of the Surat city has evolved out to be radial ring pattern, where we have 3 major ring roads and 14 radial roads. Next. The digitalization of the road network was done using ArcGIS software, and the roads were classified into 4 link types based on the number of lanes. The capacity of each lane was inputted as 1850 that is as per IRC 90 and HCM 2010. The speeds of each link were calibrated from the actual traffic data. Next. So in all 3,859 kilometers of road was digitalized in the GIS platform, and the arterial and subarterial roads consist of 18% of the total roads. And the third step was the coding of the public transport route. Up till 2007, the public transport was run by the Road Transport Corporation in Surat city. But later on, due to the low fleet size, the public transport operations were stopped. Later on, in the beginning of 2013, the first phase of the BRTS was introduced into city, and 12 BRT routes are operated now into the city. Also in 2017, the city bus routes were also introduced into the city, and both the BRTS and city bus are operated by the CityLink Private Limited, which is the special purpose vehicle established by the local government. Presently, the public transport coverage of city is 87% of the urban area and consists of 751 bus stops and 550 transit units. Along with the formal mode of transport, the informal transport, that is auto rickshaw routes, which has evolved out from the passage of time, were also taken into development of the model. Presently, 47 IPT routes were coded, which was considered for the development of the model. Next. And finally, the parameters used for the travel demand model was calibrated, beginning with first trip generation. In the present study, home-based work, home-based education, home-based others, and non-home-based trips were considered. The trip and models were directly taken from the CMP 2016, Comprehensive Mobility Plan of the city. Next. The doubly constrained gravity model method was used for the calibration of gravity, calibration of trip distribution, and the alpha and beta value of the tenor functions were taken from the CMP itself. Next. For the mode choice, the multinomial logic model method was used to develop the utility equations, and the equations, utility equations for each mode of transport were developed by one of the research scholars of this our department at SVNIT. And finally, next, for the trip assignment, the value of the alpha and beta for the BPR functions were calibrated based on the traffic volume data obtained by the department for various consultancy work. So after coding the entire road network, public transport route, development of TAZ and calibration of each parameter, the base year travel demand model was developed and validated. Now the result of the base year model clearly reveals that the home-based work and education trips were dominated, that is around 76%, followed by the non-home-based and home-based other trips. The desired line diagram of the OD matrix were plotted. Now, as we had seen earlier, that the population is more concentrated in the north and southeast part of the city, so maximum trips were generated from those zones, and the central zone of the city had the highest population density, hence maximum trips were terminated into the central zone. Also, the trip length distribution curve was plotted to know the average trip length and 85th percentile trip length, which was obtained to be 5.5 km and 7.5 km. So based further, to know the operating capacity of the road, operating performance of the road, the traffic link flows were extracted from the software and the V/C ratios were calculated. Next. The result shows that 26% of the major roads of the city were having V/C ratio greater than 0.7, and the congestion was majorly observed onto the ring roads and the roads of the CBD area. After the calibration, after the calibration and validation of the actual Bayesian model, various scenarios were generated using the Cube software based on the activity reorganization strategies. The prototype was developed to know the pre, during, and lockdown condition of the city. The pre-lockdown model is nothing but the Bayesian model, which was explained in the previous slide. Now, during lockdown, the movement of the corona warriors and the people involved in the essential services were allowed. Hence, here the attempt was made to know that what were the total number of trips that were generated during the lockdown on each day. While the post-lockdown scenarios were formulated based on the guideline provided by the local government authority, which clearly specifies that cities should be unlocked by reducing the operating capacity. Even the transit cities were operated at 50% capacity. So the core idea behind the entire modeling was to understand the reduction that could occur into the travel demand if we operate the workplaces and schools at different capacity. The operating capacity of workplaces were varied from 10 to 90% and schools were varying from 20 to 50%. The actual scenario which exists, that is Unlock 6, was also developed, which is existing into the city. So in nutshell, if I say, we tried to develop 8 different scenarios onto the Cube platform, among which 3 were the actual scenarios and 5 were the hypothetical scenarios. Next, beginning with the first, that is lockdown model. Now, the total productions and attractions that were occurred during the lockdown were estimated based on the survey of the 45 multi-specialist hospitals, 28 local police stations, and major government offices. The results reveal that 4% of the total trips compared to the PRLM model took place every day during the lockdown period. And further, there was a slight decrease into the trip length of the people. That is, average trip length was observed to be 4 kilometers, and 85th percentile it was found to be 6 kilometers. Similarly, each of these scenarios were modeled, which were explained previously, and they were the results of these parameters were extracted. Now, to get a comprehensive picture of each of these scenarios altogether, their effect on the travel characteristics were analyzed. The parameters like per capita trip rate, trip length distribution, vehicle kilometer travel, vehicle hour travel, and average speed of the road network were extracted and compared all together as shown in this slide. Beginning with the per capita trip rate graph. Now here the Unlock 6 scenario, where it is 100% work trip and no school trip, the results reveal that this scenario would reduce the trip rate by 0.34. Also, it was observed that by adding the work trip by 20%, the operating capacity of work trip by 20%, it results into the increase of trip rate of 0.12. There was no much huge difference observed in the trip length distribution curve except the PRLM model. And finally, to estimate the effect of these scenarios on the travel demand, the vehicle kilometer travel and vehicle hour travel were extracted for each scenario, and the PRLM model was considered as the base. That is, the Bayesian model was taken as 100%, and with reference to that, what could be the percentage savings in VKT and VHT for each scenarios were calculated, which is shown over here. And finally, to get an idea of the mobility of the city, average speed of the road network was expected as shown over here. Next. Also, the V by C ratios were calculated for each scenario by extracting the traffic link flows from the software. Next. Now here, keep on doing next. Now here you could observe that for each scenario, with increasing the trip length, increasing the number of trips, the V by C ratios are increasing on the road. And finally, in order to quantify the effect of these scenarios on environment, the reduction in CO2 emission that could occur was estimated. The CO2 emission factors were taken from the document, policy document, that is India GHG program, and these factors were multiplied with the vehicle kilometer of each type of vehicle, and the reduction in CO2 emission was estimated. Again, here the PRLM model was taken as the base, and the reduction in CO2 emission with reference to that were calculated, which is shown over here. Moving towards the policy interventions, the present study was attempted by hypothetically varying the work trip and school trips. But in order to execute these scenarios into the field, we need to adopt some policy interventions, which are shown over here. Now, based on the type of the trip, that is trip purpose, what possible policy interventions could be adopted are explained. Moving towards the broad level conclusions and limitation of study. Of course, Cube Voyager software is a comprehensive platform to design and evaluate various scenarios related to travel demand of city. Now, in present work, an attempt was made to showcase the pre, during, and post-lockdown scenarios. The reduction in travel demand for each scenarios were calculated, and their effect on environment was estimated. The results based on VCR ratio reveals that the low congestion was observed in case of unlock 1 and 2 scenario. Hence, operating workplaces and schools at 30% can help us to achieve better mobility. Of course, the present work had just theoretically varied the work and education tips, but to execute this into the field, the detailed analysis regarding the propensity of people to adopt such policy needs to be carried out. And finally, the present study needs the further scope of this study is to estimate the effect of such policies onto the GDP of the city. Next. So these are the acknowledgements. I would sincerely like to thank my supervisors, Dr. Gaurangji Joshi and Dr. Srinivasa Satkar, for always guiding and supporting me. I would heartily thank Dr. KVK Rao and Mr. Chetan Kumar Hani, who provided all technical support for the development of the model. Would like to thank Mr. Ashish Tan, who was involved with me for the research for this present research work. And I would like to heartily thank Dr. Rajesh Pandya sir, Deputy Commissioner Surat, for providing such a platform to showcase our research. Thank you. These are the contact, my contact. You can contact me if you have any further queries. Now I request Dr. Samir Patel to please present.
Very good afternoon, all. Bhaskar, please.
Just a second.
Okay.
Chalo. Okay, you can continue.
I didn't get permission for sharing my screen. Okay. The screen is visible now? Hello?
Yes, it is. It is visible and audible as well. Please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon to all. Myself, Dr. Samir J. Patel, Assistant Professor in Indus University, and today I am going to present the topic name is Framework for Implementation of Public Bike Sharing System in Indian Context. Before starting presentation, I would like to thank SURATi and Smart City Surat Cell, as well as Institute of Urban Transport for inviting me to share my views on the framework of bicycle sharing system in Indian context. So this is my content.
Samir, excuse me.
Yes.
Your stop your video. Please start your video.
1 minute. I just start my video. Hello.
You are not visible, but your presentation is visible. You can continue.
So is it required about the video?
No, it is not required. It is okay. You can start.
Thank you. So this is my content of presentation, which was started with the need of low carbon mobility and concept of public bicycle sharing system, followed by the planning principle to design safe and effective non-motorized transport facility. Next is principles to develop NNT infrastructure, and it is followed by the design criteria adopted for planning of public bicycle sharing system. And planning strategy and smooth roadmap for implementation of public bicycle sharing system is followed by the framework for successful implementation of PBSS, and with the showcase of the best practices adopted in the world for safe NMT infrastructure, the final part is recommendation. So starting with the first, as the need of low urban carbon mobility and concept of public bicycle sharing system. So due to the urbanization, urban agglomeration, urban sprawl, the travel distance and travel time increases rapidly and in various urban areas across the globe. Moreover, due to the lack of public transportation system, poor accessibility, lack of non-motorized transportation infrastructure, and lack of integration between the multimodal transport system, people are forced to use private mode of transport, and due to that, traffic congestion increases and cities livability index, health index, environmental index, address, etc. are decreases. So to sort all the above issues, the public bicycle sharing system may provide solutions if it implemented with proper strategy, planning, and design. So that this presentation will provide some fundamental principles to guide planners, decision makers, city managers, etc. about framing and incorporating planning principles to implement successful public bicycle sharing system in Indian cities. The stated principles and framework is robust in nature, therefore it can be adopted for various transportation projects with necessary modification. So, as in introduction slide, Dr. Joshi sir give us some statistic regarding some hypothesis. So, similar hypothesis is here, but it is describe the world scenario. So, if every person cycle for 30 minutes in a day, if 10 to 20% of bike sharing trips replace short car trips, and if city governments plan user-friendly and safe cycling infrastructure to encourage cycling culture, then in future the world scenario is CO2 can be avoided per year around 30 to 60 million tons. Economic saving from CO2 reduced at 1.3 to 2.6 billion US dollars. And last but not least, we can put a price on increases in health and happiness. So with this, I just start with the concept of public bicycle sharing system. As we all know about it is a high quality bicycle based public transportation system where the users can check out or check in the bicycle from any place, any docking station, and ride the bicycle at their destination place and check out the bicycle. So it has fundamentally four elements. That is the first is bicycles, docking stations, redistribution system, and monitoring the health system. This is a typical flow diagram about the operation of bicycle sharing system. This is the timeline for PPSS, which are started since the concept started since on 1965 in Amsterdam. They are which are called as a first generation system, and now it increases up to the fourth generation, which are called a dockless and demand responsive system. Today's the bike sharing world map says that there is a 1,963 programs are running with the 1.98 million of fleet size. This is the global and nationwide scenario on the bicycle sharing. where the Asia having a highest number of bicycle fleet size. However, Europe still at the position where the usage is very highest in Europe. In India, around 15 cities are implemented or in the planning stage to implement the bicycle sharing system. Now, before starting the process of planning of bicycle sharing system, we have to learn how the planning principle to design safe and effective non-motorized transport facility. Therefore, as per MOUD, the five planning principle is given, in which every planner should know and should do the diagnosis existing situations before planning, consider the policy options, consider the potential measure. Fourth one is select the appropriate measures, and finally that selection of appropriate measure is designed appropriately. So every planner should follow that five planning principles before plan any NMP project. So now first is diagnosis existing system. So what the planners and travel transport planners should done in this existing in this method. So very first is transport planner should analyze the profile of NMT users. Then he or she should analyze the existing NMT facility available in city. Then they measure the NMT demand, which can be measured with the help of bicycle ownership per thousand population. And definitely there is an analysis of social aspect. So that is a cultural education level of society can be also measured by the transport planner. The fifth is analyze the safety aspect. So death rate of accidents must be identified to diagnose the existing situations, and finally regulations and enforcement should be studied by the planner. Second stage is consider the planning of policy option is organize the promotion of NMT use by the making the awareness raising campaigns and all. Then city planner should implement the mandatory or advisory measure, and finally he or she plan the trunk or feeder routes. And the consider potential measures, there is a three type of measures can be implemented. First is institutional measure, second is the physical measure, third is parking facilities. So in first institutional measure, city planners or decision makers should introduce the NMC policy. Uh, the city manager should make a short-term planning program, and finally it is they need to design the roadmap for encouraging NLP. In physical measures, the provision of bicycling lane and bicycle separators must be implemented in the proper manner. Then NMT-friendly intersection design is must to encourage the NMT services, and finally the proper parking facilities should be given to the NMT user. So based on these measures, the planners must analyze, must be select the appropriate measures, and based on that appropriate measure, the proper design and implementation of that measure should be implemented. So next is basic principles for developing NMT infrastructure is, so all the NMT facilities should follow the five guiding principles. That is safety, coherence, directness, and attractiveness. So as we know, the safety. So safety is the basic requirement for any cycling infrastructure. All the safety concerns are met. Make the bicycle infrastructure where the people feel themselves. Then coherence. Coherence is what coherence? So it is nothing but the accessibility, easy accessibility. So routes should be coherent and accessible, enable people who cycle to easily travel between their origin and destination. So for that, provision of continuous and recognizable network linking pre-origin and destination is necessary. Ensure routes are well signed throughout the route, and road markings must be there. Then in directness, we can say that direct cycling routes that reduces the travel times and distance will increase the competitiveness of the bicycle compared with the motorized transport. And attractiveness. So people will be encouraged to cycle if they feel safe, and if infrastructure and route is aesthetically attractive. So basic quality design principles should follow when we are making the routes attractive. And comfort. The cycling experience should be enjoyable, smooth, and relaxed to maximize the comfort of people who cycle. So based on that five principles, the planning process of bicycle non-motorized transport should be done. Now we are coming on the point of view of design criteria adopted. So as per ITDP, there is a few design guidelines is given for the to implement a bicycle sharing system. So in that, the one stations for every 300 meters is a very influential distance to catch the bicycles by any rider or user. Or 10 public bicycle stations, docking stations is available per square kilometer. The station should be adjacent to mass transit stops, which helping passengers to connect more easily. The stations are best suited at the near corners where the users can access and egress from the multiple directions. The space that is not used by the pedestrian, for example, in between the trees, can be utilized as a docking station. And area beneath the flyover and bridges, which are often not utilized, can be a good location. So likewise, there is a guideline is given for the bicycle sharing system. Now, planning strategy and smooth roadmap for implementation of public bicycle sharing. So, the planning strategy should be followed like three steps. So, first is planners or engineers should make a strategic short and long term planning. Then, second is the system should be constructed phase-wise. And finally, appropriate application of methodology, math, and software are needed. So in first strategic planning, the pre-implementation stage and post-implementation stage should be followed, in which the in pre-implementation stage, travel behavior characteristics, demand assessment, system delineation and facing identification of barriers and solutions to tackle the barriers are accounted. And after the implementation stage, the public opinion awareness raising campaigns and stakeholder meetings shall be conducted, which help us to improve our existing situation. In second slide, the whole any public bicycle sharing system should delineate in phase wise. So when the public bicycle sharing system is implemented in a particular zone, then the in phase two, the second other zone can be implemented. And third is application of methodology, maps and software. So there is a number of methodology for the planning of my bicycle sharing system. The maps, appropriate maps can be usually are using during the planning stage, and finally selection of particular software. So based on this, in my PhD research, I identified some framework and introduced some framework for the implementation of BPSS, in which there is a simple diagram I have shown where the identification of barriers we need to identify before implementation of bicycle sharing system. So in city level, the barriers is the impact of barriers is affected much more, and it is different in different regions. So identification as well as prioritization of barriers is necessary for a particular region. Then to tackle that barriers, the identification of solution approaches must take place. However, if we identify some solution approaches, but we don't know about the what is the process of the implementation of that solution approaches. So that's why policy enablers plays a very essential role in planning process. And finally, after the making the framework for policy enablers, the identification of potential zones is going to identify. So that whole chain can be make a bicycle sharing successfully implemented. So this is the some barriers which are identified throughout the international literature review, and there is the barriers are delineated into the six categories. That is a social barrier, infrastructural barrier, travel characteristics barrier, geographical barrier, technological barriers, and institutional barriers. Out of which Some barriers are controlled barrier, which can be controlled and implement or strengthened with the help of some strategy. However, some barriers are not controlled by us. For example, there is a geographical barrier, so we cannot control the geography of the particular region. Okay, so that's in that manner it is delineated into the two parts, that is a controlled barriers and uncontrolled barriers. So this is the 31 barriers which are shortlisted and which are mostly suitable in the Indian context. However, impact of that all barriers can be different depend on the geographical condition. And this is the 14 solution approaches which are identified through the literature review. And to implement that solution approaches successfully, the policy enablers is listed with the help of literature review. So these are the typical framework and in which the policy enablers are very much important, which give the how to implement and how to make a effective strategy to provide a successful public bicycle sharing system. So now there is some best practices in the world for safe NMT infrastructure. So in Amsterdam, the Amsterdam is very well known for the bicycling infrastructure. So in Amsterdam, under the 1950 to 1960, due to economic growth, the car usage increases drastically. People are buying the cars, and that the cycle use is decreasing from 80% to 20% within a 10 years. City administration also widened the road for cars and neglected the NNP infrastructure. However, after some time, the rate of fatal accident increases rapidly, and in 1971 was considered as the peak years of accident, in which the 3,300 fatal accidents reported, out of which 400 was children. So within a 10 years of economic boom, the privatization of car usage is increasing, and that type of legality of business is consistently decreasing. So that impact on the people's mentality, and government initiative, some initiative that is the car free Sunday, then NGO and people are runs civil disobedience movement which runs across the city. The government constructing cycling lane and cycling highway. They improve in networks and roads. There is a free cycle parking is available, and to encourage the children below 12 years old get a free public transport system. The government also enforce some rules like block and restrict the cars in congested area and increases the parking charge. So after the initiative for the 10 to 15 years, the current scenario is city
હા
administration
તારું વોટ્સઅપ જો ને એક પેલું ફીડબેક નું ફોર્મ જોઈ લે ને એકવાર ચેક કરીને મને મેસેજ કર.
is more than the 8
હા
feet, and only 90% population have a car. And currently there is a 400-kilometer cycle track is constructed in a Amsterdam, which are nothing but the distance from the approximate distance from the Surat to Ahmedabad. So these are the current scenario. The second city is known as the Bogota, which is in Colombia. So due to unsuccess in 1988,
સુરત પર વાત
1998,
કરને
there is a 1% with our cycle route. However, after the construction of 250 kilometers of circuit bicycle trips, the 2001, the rate is increases directly to the 4%, and the fatality reduces in that is from 2 to 3 days in a day to the 1 to 2 days. Now, Copenhagen nowadays become a highest ranked one in the world for the bicycle friendly city, where they initiated the constructed four bicycle bridges, 170 kilometers cycling highway, long-term and short-term planning for energy infrastructure, and goal-oriented bicycling policy framework. So now currently the city has a 62% trips with the bicycles. In municipal election, if some parties are running pro-car platforms, they don't stand a chance. In 2018, there is a one party are encouraging pro-car policy, introduce pro-car policy. If they are winning the election, then their party get no chance to win at all. So that is a I can say public awareness. And Copenhagen is one of the city which having a highest safety, healthcare, and climate index. So this is the bridges which are constructed in Copenhagen. So that are the initiatives taken by the government itself to encourage the bicycling. Now there is a various other city also promoting the non-motorized transport, particularly cycling. So finally go to the recommendations. So urban infrastructure is constructed in open manner, that is without hard border between the public and private premises. As public space is designed to integrate the greenery with walking and cycling. However, in local authority allocate the annual budget and goal orientation policy must be implemented for improving non-motorized transport infrastructure. The city centers divided into the sectors with borders that can be crossed by NMT, but it restricted the motorized force. City across the globe were ramping up and cycling
Sir, speaker 1 to connect don't check.
city government must
ત્રણ કરવા છે એમ
and work with the local
રાજેશ
community.
પંડ્યા
ઓકે ઓકે ઓકે
Various ways we also
કેવું લાગે સર મારો
stated that
સરસ રહ્યું ગુડ વન
અવાજ આવતો તો બરાબર
હા હા બધું વ્યવસ્થિત
bicycle
સારું લાગ્યું ને આમ કે કીધું એવું
હા સરસ છે
હવે માં હું બહાર એટલે જ હું ચેટ બોક્સ માં ક્વેશ્ચન આયા હોય તો જોઈ લઉં
છે
હું જોઈ લઉં છું ચલો
હા
અને સ્પીકર 3 નાખજો
હા એડ કરી દીધું
ઓકે હા ફાઇન
So with this I completed my presentation and thank you again for inviting me and to share my views on bicycle finance system. Thank you again.
After both these presentations, so I'd like to say something about Cycle for Change Challenge. As planners, and especially urban planners, we are much concerned about the share of public transport and private transport. First of all, we always try to think about how we can increase the share of public transport. Yes, private transport has a major share or more share in the different types of transport facilities, but for an efficient transport system, the majority of the share should go to public transport. More so,
ચેટ
when we
બોક્સ થી
talk
દેખાતું
of
મને
urban
સ્ક્રીનશોટ
transport,
મોકલો ને ક્વેશ્ચન ના
એક જ છે હાઉ ધ આઈપીટી રૂટ્સ ફોર આઈડેન્ટિફાઈડ
capture maximum number of
ઓકે બાકી કઈ નથી ને
ના એક જ ક્વેશ્ચન છે એટલે આ પંડ્યા સાહેબ નું પતે
cycling
હા હા
એટલે હું લઉં છું ક્વેશ્ચન એવું હોય તો તને પૂછું
due to the
બોલી
increase
દો શું
of
પૂછવાનું
vehicular activity
how
on our road.
how the IPT routes were
The
identified
third figure is that
હા ઓકે એ એક જ છે ને
the
બાકી
NMD
કોઈ ક્વેશ્ચન
activity
ના એક જ છે રિક્ષાના રૂટ
નહીં ને
હા પેલા
and that is
IPT routes were identified how
હા એ તો સમજાઈ ગયું
ઓકે બસ એ એક જ
the
છે
COVID crisis
ઓકે
has
Ah,
given
ah.
rise to a situation that people are now apprehensive of using public transport due to any fear of infection, transmission of diseases. So let us take up this crisis as an opportunity and try to increase or improve upon the NMT facility. The government of India has taken up this as a challenge and posed this as a challenge in front of the cities. How we can make our cities more cycling friendly. What steps we can do, what actions we can take so that we increase the number of cycling trips within a city. The ministry has put up a challenge before the cities, how we can do it. So I'll just like to make a small presentation which the ministry had launched in the month of July. What is the cycle for challenge? You have that audio video? Yes, you can run that video. For the benefit of all, we'll run the video. This video was made by during the presentation of how we can run, how the cycle for change, what the cycle for change challenge is, why we require a cycle for change, what the cycle for change challenge is. So please go to the video. I think the sound is not okay. Bhaskar, can you give a feedback whether it is okay?
Sir, the video is running very slowly. Probably buffering is time taking, and there is no audio in the background.
Okay,
But maybe you can explain. Your voice is clearly heard, sir.
okay. I think generally the video is clear. Let us see what they do. So this is the launch of cycle for challenge. The challenge.
Sir, your voice is not audible, sir. Sir, your voice is not heard. I think there is some disconnection from mic to the device, sir.
Check. Hello, hello, check. Hello, check. Hello, check.
Yes, sir, it is there. We can hear you.
Okay. Okay. So as I have already explained, they are trying to run the whole video again. The Cycle for Change Challenge was launched on June 2020. And these are the aims and objectives of the mission: to inspire cities to implement quick cycling interventions in the wake of COVID-19 and to support the citizens and assistance from experts, and extensive cycling network using low-cost methods like pop-up cycling lane, non-motorized zones, and set up community-led cycle rental schemes. So these are some suggestive directives given by the ministry, but the main objective is to improve or enhance the cycling activities, and cycling activities especially as the mode of transport within the city. Cycling activities, actually the number of cycling activities are going on, like health activities, cycling associations, but they are mostly related to recreation and health facility. But now the ministry aims that the cycling should be enhanced as a mode of transport to increase the share of trips by cycling within the city to help reduce congestion and other activities. So the challenge is open to all cities under the smart cities mission, capital cities of states and all cities, and with population of more than 5 lakh per people. Even the citizens, experts, civil society organizations with interest in project can collaborate. In Surat, we have made a working group which is acting, which is for this. We have already applied for the smart cities under the smart cities challenge for the Cycle for Challenge Fund, and we are doing this in collaboration with a number of technical organizations. The need of personalized form of transport is expected. Some Indian cities have already started working towards that, and for that, we, as I think Samir has also explained in this presentation also, some of the cities are already having number of cycling schemes. They have got their own cycle tracks. They have got own cycling initiatives. Even before this challenge was launched, number of cities were having these, like Chennai, Pune, Surat, Ahmedabad. They are already working, and this initiative has strengthened their efforts to have more of cycling trips within the city. And this initiative of the government of India is going to help a lot in strengthening the cycling networks or cycling population of the cities. Kolkata, Chennai, Chandigarh, they are also doing it. Even if we go to northeast cities, number of cities in the northeast have taken up like Guwahati, Kohima, Aizawl, all these cities have also taken up cycling for uh, as a mode of transport in the city. A survey by IDDP shows that the cycling share would increase by 50 to 65% as the cities come out of the lockdown. When the cities will come out of the lockdown, that is post-lockdown, the scenario will be that the number of cycling, I don't say, it does not say that it will become 60, 50 to 60%, but the increase in what the share is as of now will be about 50 to 65%. And the cities around the world are leveraging the opportunity to expand the network of public bicycle sharing systems. Even if you see the pop-up cycle lanes across London could be made permanent after pandemic. This is how the London transport experts are saying. So we should also take up this opportunity as other cities have taken up. We should take this challenge as an opportunity and try to convert our whole system into to make more cycle friendly and enemy friendly. For increasing the cycling, this can help the cities in green economic recovery. I think someone was explaining about the reducing the carbon footprint, reducing the consumption of fossil fuels, and investment in cycling infrastructure can have economic benefits of up to 5.5 times the initial investment. If we take into consideration the indirect benefit by saving in the fossil fuel, saving in the congestion, or enhancement of the carbon footprint, the benefits that we can have, including the indirect benefits, will be 5.5 times the initial investment. And cycling for short distances can result in an annual benefit of rupees 1.8 trillion to the Indian economy. Look at TERI, that is the Environmental Research Institute study, the Energy and Resource Institute study from last year estimates that if bicycles were to substitute over four-wheelers for short distance trips, it can result in an annual benefit of 1.8 trillion. That is 1.6% of India's GDP for the year 2015-16. If it is possible, since it is a zero dependence on fossil fuel, emission, pollution, health benefits from increased physical activities, besides being affordable means of mobility for low-income households. We all understand that for the traditionally low-income group people, most of them are actually using cycling as a mode of transport to their workplaces, and even some of them are using for cycling to the school and other workplaces also. Sanjay Munjal, the chairman and MD of Hero Cycle, says 90 million people in India ride bicycle a day. We then question what will happen if the number becomes double. Let us imagine what happens if it becomes double. He also added that 25 crore Indians every day walk to work, school, and finish daily course, which is just a drop when faced with the challenge like rainfall. Imagine the net impact on the GDP if those people don't need to drop, only if they have a cycle as a means of personal transport. So, as I was saying, if we can convert the short trips into cycling trips, it will have a very big impact on the economy as a whole and even on the workforce and the loss of manpower, the loss of work man days which we are losing in absence of the cycling. So this is an indirect benefit we are getting. Some issues which we need to solve is that the TERI study stated that one of how the large-scale adoption of cycles, especially in rural regions, can be achieved is by reducing the GST rates. If we reduce the GST rates, then which cost less than 5,000 from the existing 15%, lower rate of 5%. A bicycle development council needs to be established for the development of the sector, especially when we see that the bicycle or such mode of transport does not have a very formal or support of any group. So a bicycle development council, if it is developed or something organization like that, it will help in the development of the sector. This has been a campaign by Hero, रोड पे दिखेगी तभी तो बिकेगी, रोड पे दिखेगी तभी साइकिल, रोड पे दिखेगी तभी तो चलेगी campaign. It is there to raise the awareness of the citizens to press for the right to cycle and demand safer roads, dedicated cycle space from urban authorities. As we know, the cyclists still are a very low aware group. They don't have much of say. So they have to get together and put their rights before the authority. If we understand the cycling challenge, then let us understand what are the concerns, what are the loopholes, why it is cycling is not picking up, or what are the basic elements, what are the basic infrastructure we may need for cycling. First is segregation. That is segregation of traffic, safety. And how we can have safety? Segregation, traffic calming, and safe intersection. So a cyclist should be separated physically from fast moving and dangerous motor vehicle traffic. Another is continuity. We should have a continuous track. Piece by piece or intermittent braking does not help the cyclist in his trip. So end-to-end connectivity should be there for the better cycling track. Comfort by shade, smooth riding surface, etc. The cycling has to be comfortable. And personal security like lighting, active edges, etc. If they are not well lit, then children, ladies, and aged person will not be able to use it. Another is access to all. There is a rental scheme, training programs, etc. are required so that people have good access to the cycling infrastructure. A few examples of essential interventions are like, as I was saying, segregated cycle lanes. They can be segregated barriers or markings. But lane markings, as we know, friends, is possible mostly in American or European countries. In India, generally, lane markings are not being followed very disciplinarily. So we are forced to have barriers. Another is traffic calm streets. So the speed on the road should be reduced. We are having traffic roads, we are not having racing tracks. So with this understanding, the vehicles should be slowed down so that they are not in conflict with the cyclists. Then other is intersections. Major challenge all the cyclists are facing is maneuvering the intersection. How can a cyclist maneuver an intersection same grade, same level with a high moving traffic? So intersection design is a very important. The compact junction, cycle box, and safe signals can be done. Next. So some examples of the interventions are cycling rentals, like a PBS or a bicycle rental or a bicycle sharing team. Then we can have training programs for young children and for ladies or even elderly persons. One more deficiency that is being felt as of now is cycling repair shops. We don't find many repair shops. That if there is some problem, there is a puncture, then we don't find. So we should have frequent cycle repair shops or clinics. And one more thing is parking. Whenever we are doing an infrastructure, what we are lacking is parking. We don't have ample parking space for cyclists. So we should provide ample parking spaces for dependency on the cycle. Next. So how can we go ahead? We should test, learn, and scale up. We should take up a pilot project, test over there, learn from our experience, our deficiencies, and then scale up for the larger areas, whole city areas, and same. Next. And these interventions should be planned in a network to provide continuity, and we should take up the cycling network planning strategy. And while designing the network, these are some simple principles of good networking should be followed, like the safe, continuous, and secure. We should have safe crossing and movement. It should be unobstructed, recognizable, and it should make one secure. So we can have two type of approach. One is corridor approach. We can have cycle track, and on the other neighborhood approach that we can have grid or something like that, or we can have a mix of both. Where we can have corridor-based approach, this is followed by some cities, especially in London, where we have arterial road network which connect the key destinations, and we firstly have pilots in at least one or two projects, and then we go ahead. So the neighborhood approach we can have considering a radius of about 1.5 kilometers and connect the key landmarks within the network, and we can derive the neighborhood network for the neighborhood. And in the challenge plan, we have two different stages. One is from July to October, where in first stage we are going to experiment and learn and develop a proposal. We try to select different corridors or neighborhoods and experiment with pop-up or temporary cycle lanes, and then we can develop a proposal. And the second stage, we start from October to June, we scale it up to the whole zone or the whole city as a whole. This is the challenge, two different scale of the challenge plan. Two different stages. And in this whole scheme, citizen engagement is the key to the success. Citizen engagement, because they are the major elements. And for that, we have already started number of campaigns. You can see a number of press articles, social media, webinars are already taken up, so that how we can try to include or involve local people in this. And to support Cycle for Change Challenge, Suraj has made a core working group. We have already conducted online-offline survey to know what the people are thinking. We have already created a virtual run, walk, cycling event, and we got about 71,000 kilometers of cycling event on the same day. So these are some of the essentials where I already discussing. We can have cycling safe corridors, cycling safe neighborhoods, and cycling safe intersections. Intersections are going to be very important. Friends, let us be very clear that even as the present situation, the intersections are not very safe even for the vehicles. So the cycles are going to be a very tricky issue to face, but this is going to be the major challenge. Having safe intersections for cyclists is going to be prime requirement of the whole scheme. Next. So planning and effective intervention is how we are taken up in this challenge. So we have got already planned for a corridor and a neighborhood, and we have taken up one major corridor, that is from VR Mall to Dumas Magdala Chowkri, and we are taking how we can do it. So these are some of the neighborhood streets. This is the I think we have taken up in two phases. In phase 1A, we cover 8.75 kilometers of cycle track. That if you see, it is from Rahul Raj Mall through VR Junction to L&D Colony. Then on the we go by the canal to Grail Colony and VIP Road. So we are going to this is a pilot project area that we have delimited. And the phase 1A covers about 4.9 square kilometer of area with corridor and neighborhood. So we have already started a handlebar survey. It is called a handlebar survey when the cyclist group takes a physical survey of the site and find out how the route is, what the problems are, how they can be overcome. And with this handlebar survey, we make suggestions to the authority how what the problems are and how the solutions can be. So a handlebar survey has already been done within this area. Next. Deal breakers. What problems are going to be faced by the cyclist on these tracks? So these are deal breakers. Sometimes somewhere there may be no street light, so the people may not take up to cycling in the daytime, night time, or early morning night. Sometimes there is the gully track may be out of. Sometimes the branches may be. So all these deal breakers have been identified, photographed, and recorded, and they will be put up before the authority and corrected, so that we have a very good network of cycling tracks which can be taken up by the people. Next. So we think that how will we take up the challenge? So first major intervention is improving the cycle infrastructure. We have some dedicated bicycle tracks, but we have to improve upon them. Second is creating parking infrastructure. If I take a cycle, but if I don't have a place to park, place to park, then I won't be able to take it for a shopping or for any local area. So we have to have some parking infrastructure, then integrate the NMB with the existing public transport. As Samir was already pointing out, we should have a parking space near bus station so that I can take my cycle from my residence to bus stop, put it, park it over there, and take a bus or a rickshaw or any other public transport. The augmentation of public pilot areas project to a full scale, branding, enhancing the social acceptance. Physical infrastructure is a part of authority, but the major restrictive portion why the cycling has not picked up as of now is the human infrastructure. The social image. साइकिल पे खाली गरीब लोग जाते हैं. If you go by cycle, either you are a health freak or you are a poor man. Normal people don't take cycling. This image has to be removed. You have to enhance the image. You have to brand cycling not as a poor man's vehicle, but as a vehicle man who is social aware person, not a poor man, and it has to be socially acceptable. For that, we have to take up different activities. So these are some of the activities that we have been doing in the Cycle for Change challenge. We are into first phase. We'll be taking it to second phase, and whenever we are developing the next phases, we'll come to you, and we'll like to have some suggestions and modifications and your inputs into this. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, sir. May I request Mr. Nandan, there was a question for you.
If there are any questions for the panelists, if there are any questions for the panelists from the panel for the list,
sir, just one question is posted, and I think that belongs to the session of Nandan Davda ji.
question,
there is one question to Nandan. How the IPT routes were identified?
Pardon?
How the IPT routes were identified in the case that Nandan Davda presented?
Check. Bhaskar, you have any questions?
Sir, one question is there from a participant Gulnaz. Hello. Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
The question from Gulnaz is to Nandan. How the IPT routes were identified in the study presented?
Hello. So for the present study, I would say that Surat city has IPT as a mode of transport since last 40 to 50 years. So with the passage of time, the IPT routes have been evolved out, and those routes were considered for the modeling. Along with it, these routes have been designated even while development of the comprehensive mobility plan. So those routes were taken into consideration.
So as such, there was only one question posted, sir. Maybe proceed further. And there is one question, one more question in the chat box from Josh Goswami. I guess Surat has the comprehensive mobility plan. So the question, are these NMT or cycle promotion activities are in line with it?
Yes, Surat has its comprehensive mobility plan, and the activities that we are taking up, they are in line with the comprehensive mobility.
So
if there are no other questions,
no, sir. No.
Okay. So I'll take this opportunity to address all the members present over here, and online all the members are here. Our intention is to increase the activities of the center, and how we can do it. We were thinking a number of times, but this COVID situation has given us an opportunity, and we feel that this webinar system is also useful to have more number of interaction, so that people who are not even in Surat or Ahmedabad, they can attend. First advantage is here we can have participants of different places. We can have more number of participants. So our aim is to have more interactions, also to give an opportunity to our students and researchers to have a platform to whet their skills of presentation, to have the interaction, and like Nandan and Samir, to showcase their work, what work they have done. So I will request all the student members, all the research scholars, postgraduate students, and professionals to please come forward with their subjects and topics. And we will be open. This whole forum is open to all the members, even non-members also. So we can have a knowledge sharing platform. The whole intention of IUT or any association is to have a knowledge sharing platform. So this has given us an opportunity. Let us continue this forum. We request all the members we have got our own email ID and our WhatsApp group. So you can send your suggestions. You can send your suggested topics. You can send your suggested panelists. If any member wants to make a presentation himself or herself, we are open to that. So please share your thoughts. Please share your topics. Please share your subject matter. And if some like we had today, we can have 2 or 3. We can pull 2 or 3 panelists and have one session. Or if the topic is bigger, we can have 2 or 3 continuous series of sessions. So whatever is there, we are open to all. So I'll take this advantage. Please take advantage of this forum. Let us continue this interaction again and again. So I'd like to. You want to add something, sir?
Yeah, good afternoon all. Am I audible? Yeah, thank you. So I think around 30 to 40 members are listening here. I really request all of you, as Dr. Pandey has suggested us, that we should try to share our knowledge on one platform and try to see the totality of a particular topic in depth. So for that purpose, it is always important that different people, from different perspective, not only like transportation, but also from planner's point of view, maybe for anybody, maybe from sociology background, or maybe anybody is from electronics background or computer science background. Your friends also you can invite, because as more and more people are going to come on this particular one platform, we are going to get different flavors to this particular problem. As from all the presentations today, we found that it is not only civil engineering or transportation engineering or city administration problem. this particular problem has got multiple dimensions, and I strongly feel that our electronics and computer science people also can contribute. And if you want to really see the efficient movement of different entities, for example, different cycles, how they are using a particular routes, or how they are selecting a particular given route. Actually, one of the possible way is to see that how is to just have a rival preference survey, or just have a kind of questionnaire survey. And another thing is also there that we have GPS installed in these kind of high-end bicycles. So can we make use of that data set? And we can also work upon some kind of Wi-Fi based locks, locking systems, okay? And any other intervention for that matter from the electronics or computer science side as well. So I feel that this needs a very good understanding of database management, and it's in totality a very different level of problem, because if you are able to give information in advance to our city dwellers that what kind of infrastructure is available and how they should choose a particular mode, particularly maybe I will say combination of bus and cycle, or maybe combination of auto rickshaw and cycle. Okay, particularly we are interested to encourage our public transportation, and of course NMT, like these kind of PBS systems. So this will generate, in a sense, a lot of momentum regarding usage of this kind of green transport, I will say. So this is what ultimately we can define as also as green mobility. And as already all the presenters today, they have hinted that there will be significant reduction in carbon footprint, okay, by virtue of these kind of initiatives. So I congratulate the conveners of this particular today's sessions, and also the speakers that they have started this particular series of sessions or discussions on a very high note. And I along with other colleagues and all those who are sitting here, I invite, and rather I would like you to invite your friends and your all those who are connected with your colleagues and friends to have more and more participation and discuss more relevant issues, and try to see that how best we can address this particular issue with ground reality, with ground truth. That is what is the most important thing critically. Okay, finally I will just suggest that Dr. Pandey has already rolled out the timeline. For example, I think October that we have one pilot project. So definitely we would be very much interested to see that how exactly it is coming up, how we can work together, and also when we can scale up. While scaling up, definitely there will be different issues, because all routes are not going to have similar nature. There will be different densities, there will be different preferences, and so on. So certainly we'll have to deal with this problem with more and more expertise and experiences. So with this brief note, I would like to hand over it to again Dr. Pandey. I think in all it was a great session. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your valuable input. Now I'll request Bhaskar to please wrap up the session with concluding remarks and attend the vote of.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. It was fantastic session. Just one more question has popped up. It goes like, what if we use the same bicycle used by someone who is COVID positive, has used it, and what should we do in this type of situation for safety in public bicycle? So Pandya sir, there is a concern regarding sanitization of these bicycles when they are parked back by the users for the sanitization. I mean, is there any mechanism coming up for like sanitization tunnel or something like that, sir? Sir, your voice is not audible, sir. Sir, no audio, sir. Sir, there is no audio.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, sir.
The condition, I'd like to point out that all the bicycles are sanitized daily. After on the closing time, all the bicycles and the docks are sanitized daily, but it is not possible to sanitize the bicycles after every trip. So we have to be cautious ourselves. We have to keep our sanitizers with us. At least wipe the handles and other seats that if you want to use it. Because the situation is same. When you use a bus or a rickshaw or a car used by any other name, so how are you sure the other person is not COVID positive? So this is going to remain a challenge for all the modes of transport. Cycle is not some exception. But we are trying to contain it by sanitizing our system daily, and the user, the best possible system solution is we have to be cautious ourselves. You know, the buyer beware. So if you are a user, you have to beware. You have to try to see that the things are sanitized, or you can keep the issues and with yourself. But it is the same for other cities. But they are trying to manage it out by sanitizing the system daily in the night.
That's great initiative in any way, sir. In the public safety, of course, Surat Municipal Corporation has taken many measures since 1992, and has been acting very consciously regarding public health. For whatever kind of measures are required, it has taken upfront remarkably. So, with this note, I would like to end up this session and convey a sincere thanks to Surat Municipal Corporation, the AIC Surat iLAB, Foundation of Smart City, Dr. C.Y. Bhatt, who is the CEO for Surat Smart City Mission, Dr. Jijay Joshi and Dr. Rajesh Pandya, the President, the Chairman and the Secretary of IUT, SVNIT Regional Chapter, Gujarat-Rajasthan. Also, heartfelt thank to both the speakers of the event, Nandan Davda and Dr. Samir Patel, for sharing their crux of the study research that they have carried out. Also, at the point, I would like to take a note of thankful cooperation with enthusiasm extended by the executive committee members, Dr. Arkatkar, Dr. L.B. Zhala and Sant Pandya, along with Professor Ujjwal Solanki, and all the event management team members who has been backbone to this online event today. I am thankful to all of them, along with all the participants who have taken keen interest in this event and had been active participation through creating of dialogues. And as what Pandya sir has suggested, we'll keep this forum running, coming up with more of such similar sessions, and maybe act as a community to be aware and keep everyone aware about the concerns related to urban transportation in by and large in general good. Okay, thank you so very much. Thank you all. Thank you one and all.